Are we all
Time to talk about filthy lucre.
Okay then. As Vince says, this is meant to fit in with what you've been talking about and doing. So, show me the money and ways of getting money and finding it. I'm not going to talk, there's a big presentation here, I'm not going to go through it all. I'm just going to show you a couple of slides. And a good one to start with, we're not going to do all that stuff. The book, some of you will get, I think there's quite a few that will be distributed later on today, which my friend and I wrote because we really feel that this is something that can be learned and practiced, finding the money. It's not a question of just money and accounting and numbers, it's what you've been doing and you've been hearing about today, convincing somebody to give you the money. Now these are my little introductory slides that I always use, and I go through a whole load of stuff which we're not going to go through here today because we're going to talk more about the money itself. And I'm looking for a slide here which we will find. This is all about the nature of the economy, and somewhere in here, if I can get to it, end. Where's end? If we go back from here, I want to show you a picture. Can't find, this is the one. Now, I'm an investor, and I'm sitting behind my desk, and a bunch of people come in and they say, show us the money. We want money. Here's what I'm looking for, and here's what I'm looking for in your pitches. So I'm looking for some inspiration, I'm looking for some vision, I'm looking for some courage and optimism in you as people. I'd like a bit of bullshit, please, because I do feel that, you know, you've got to sell yourself a bit, so bullshit's not bad. And then I'm also going to be looking eventually, if I'm going to invest in a team, these harder skills. I want to know that you do know something about financial control. I want to know that you've done your research. I want to know that you can manage a business. And I'm very, very keen to know if you've got some grey hairs behind you, or no hairs. Men with no hair are rather more attractive than women with no hair, but older people who can help you with maturity do what you have to do. So, you know, when you're making your pitches, again, think about these things. We've been talking about this. It's the same if you're talking to a bank manager, as a venture capitalist, or a business angel. And remember, if you were selling a product to a large company, they'd be looking at these things too. So this is a guide of how really to present yourself if you want somebody to invest in you. When I went and sold inkjet printers to Coca-Cola, they wanted to see all of those things and believe that if they invested in me, it would be a good thing for them. Now, the traditional world of venture capital, the traditional world of finance is banks, business angels. Who can tell me something I said yesterday about the best source of money for a business? What's the best source of money for a business? Yes. Where does the most attractive money come from into your business?
Somebody said it. You have to
without strings. Except you have to supply something in exchange for it. Customers. You go and talk to a class of MBAs in Cambridge and you ask them that question. Out pops venture capital, business angels. Customers is very rarely mentioned as the first source of money for a business. But customers are the best source of money for a business. So when you're pitching and you're looking for finance, these are some of the qualities that the people that are listening to you are going to be looking for. And when we look for, find another slide here. Yeah. Traditionally, there are customers, there are banks, there are business angels, and once you get to business angels and venture capitalists, you start to meet people who want to share in your company in exchange for the money they give you. So the most important early sources of money are, if it's not customers, it's your own money, or Auntie Doris's money, or your family's money, or the money of the fools that will provide money for your business. Family, friends and fools. So start with yourself, family, friends and fools. Then there are banks who will want interest on the money they lend you. There are venture capitalists, there are business angels who will put money in your business in exchange for shares, and if you take money from them, remember that they will want a say in how the company runs. They will probably want a seat on the board. If you've got more than one of them, you've introduced possibly 2 new agendas to your own agenda as the founder of the business. So although I ran a venture capital fund, I always used to say it was the last resort. Don't come to me if you can find the money somewhere else, because I'm going to take a share in your business and I'm going to want an exit. They all want an exit. So when they put money in, they're looking ahead a number of years to when they're going to get their money out with a profit. That's why people invest in exchange for shares in your company. And we can talk about it at length, but we won't, because it's not the subject for today. The real issue for today is to get you into a position when you're making these pitches, if you're talking about needing money, that you're able to do it in a way that convinces me if I'm the investor. And we'll see how that goes. Now, what's happening in the world today because of the internet, and can I put that other set of slides up in a minute, not just right now, is that because we can communicate with each other much more effectively, and because we really are more independent in a way, power to the people, people are now going online, and there are platforms online, and I'll talk to you about them in a minute, where you can actually borrow money or lend it without a bank, and it's legal and it's controlled. Or you can put money into a good cause, crowdfunding, or you can put money into a company which gives you a reward, but not taking, you don't take shares in it, or you can put money online into companies in which you buy shares. So there's a whole world emerging because of the internet and entrepreneurialism. And I'll show you that other slideshow. Can we put it up here, please? I'll show you what happened in the last few years. And Nesta is the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts. It's a big public source of money. And they publish this report every year about alternative finance. Alternative finance. Not banks, not venture capitalists, not business angels, other sources of money. And I'll just show you 1 or 2 extracts from this, and we'll talk a little bit about where you might get money from places like crowdfunding. So what is alternative finance? It can be peer-to-peer, person-to-person lending online, which is debt that you repay. It can be invoice trading. More and more companies that don't get paid quickly for their invoices actually sell those invoices to investors who take a share of the money when it comes in and pay you immediately. So invoice trading is a big thing. There are community share schemes that are very, very interesting, where companies or people put money for a period of time into a good cause or a new building or an innovation centre, and they get it repaid without much interest. Then there's crowdfunding, and there are 3 types of crowdfunding in addition to peer-to-peer lending. Reward-based crowdfunding. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. In Cambridge, there's a very clever man who has created a business game called Elite some years ago. Last year, the people using the game badgered him to do an upgrade, and he said, "Okay, show me the money." In a week, he raised £1.5 million to develop Elite 2, and 25,000 people contributed to that. 25,000, and they all got the game at a discounted price. That's reward-based crowdfunding. Donation-based crowdfunding is if you put your money into a cause like black bone disease, which is a sort of charity. That's straightforward. That's donation-based crowdfunding. Then equity-based crowdfunding is the other kind of crowdfunding where you actually put your money into a platform and you get shares in the company. So you become a shareholder in the company. There's a new government scheme now that enables you, if you've got a private pension plan, to draw some money from that plan, even though you're not pensionable age, and use it to start a business. That's a very, very interesting move. There are all sorts of other securities. So We're living in a world of change where new forms of finance are available that don't involve banks, that don't involve venture capital, that don't involve the need to give up shares in your company. And for some of the projects that I've seen you working on here, crowdfunding could be a very interesting way of getting money. Now, the important thing about crowdfunding, though, is how you present. You've got to pitch, you'll make a video, it will go online. So we keep coming back to this whole focus of this afternoon, which is how you present yourself and how you present your ideas. Let me just show you the scale of this. There's some more slides here. This is how alternative finance has grown in the last small number of years. Look at this growth. Last year, in the UK alone, 1.7 billion of money was raised by alternative finance, not through the traditional forms of bank. Crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending, it was a very, very fast growth for the last 3 years. Last year, more money was raised by alternative finance than in the previous 3 years. And it's growing at an amazing rate. And there's the breakdown. So peer-to-peer business lending, almost getting up to 1 billion. You can read them off, I won't read them all off. And here we see equity crowdfunding growing at 400%. This is the crowdfunding where you go onto a platform and you actually buy shares together with a whole load of other people buying shares. And some of those platforms are also gathering money from business angels and other sources of finance. So, without going into detail, it is an amazingly exciting area. And look at this, you see, this is very interesting. The amounts of money raised are sometimes quite small. The average amount raised is not huge. Equity crowdfunding is bigger because people are buying shares in the company, but look at consumer lending, small amounts of money. Smaller amounts of money can be raised without recourse to banks and complicated deals. The percentage of alternative finance, I don't know exactly why they looked at this, but women are getting more. This is something about the emotions, isn't it? The charitable areas, the good cause areas. This is where women are raising large amounts of money, much more than men. And you can read the rest. Where the women are not raising so much money is invoice trading, because probably fewer of them have companies, or on equity crowdfunding. So ladies, if it's a good cause or something charitable, you've got a much better chance than the men of getting money. Now this is another very interesting slide which shows that very, very many people are still unaware of the availability of alternative finance. It's new. It isn't well known about. So that's an interesting observation. Look at that yellow band there. Very few people know about this yet, relatively. And I think that's all I wanted to show you about alternative finance. Anyone that wants to read the report, I can send you a soft copy of it. But go back to that picture that I showed you of the balance and the characteristics, the soft ones, the harder ones. And when you go back and start work again on your final presentation preparation, bear all that in mind. Any questions? Which teams are going to need money? Right. So we all need money.
Just something I'd like to just
Please,
add
yes,
as a
yes,
general
yes,
thing,
yes.
Alan, if it's okay. I mean, I think if you think about people, and I think Alan put it very well, when they're looking at the pictures and they're looking at you and your good idea and your, you know, maybe your interest in doing it, it meets a problem, how you would maybe reach market, and that's important. But I think partly, and Alan was covering it in nice detail, sort of on the one side you got that, and then there's more detailed analysis. But what they're trying to show, maybe have you thought a bit about the money? You know, you don't have to detail that you realise that it needs money to get going, that you've maybe thought what might be a suitable way of going, that makes sense. And that your model kind of shows that, yeah, not that you're an accountant, not that you know all big financial jargon terms, but that you kind of understand that money's important, and that and the kind of key thing is that, you know, if it is a business, even if it's a community project, if it's a community project, it has to make money to keep itself. If it's a business, it's got to pay its costs and aim to make a profit, and that's important, that you've kind of got that, you know, across without knowing anything. So that's important, you know, that you think a little bit about that too. You don't have to do anything extravagant without that sunset, but that all helps in your pitch.
Yeah, and do remember that if you're talking to people who are managing other people's money, like a fund manager or a bank, they do have a strong feeling of obligation to the people from whom they're getting the money. So they're going to want to know that you are going to be very, very purposeful and sensible, and that you do understand money and how to get it used. And for most of you, that will mean, if you do have a business, also having at your right hand a good financial advisor.
I mean, I think what Alan's saying, you don't have to necessarily do it. It's also a great point about having the grey hair. I don't mean to sound very glad, I haven't got too much grey hair yet, but to have someone who's got experience, and even as an informal, and I'm not saying you put that there, but that's also an important point, because it's good that you know somewhere, and it may be, instead of on the board, you've got an advisor linked to a certain nobody that can advise you, or you can go back to, or people through the university or college, but that all helps.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the groups yesterday, I think it was the girls in the corner who talked about social enterprises, where the end product or the service had a benefit to the community. So we talked about things like corporate, like CSR money, corporate social responsibility. We just touched on it, but it's something else that maybe that we could talk about. But you know, for small starts, that could be a possibility. And the thing about having a financial advisor, please don't think that in every company you've got a finance guy. I ran a business for many years and I didn't have a finance guy next to me. But you can go to a specialist, an accountant or friend of the family. So don't feel that you've got to have a finance guy in your company. You can outsource his
people need to know that, that you're prepared to ask the questions, or you know that something, or there's somewhere to just something you can do. It just makes it that bit more, that you're maybe a little bit more streetwise, or understand the realities and selling that. You're selling the project, but you're also selling yourselves as a team.
There are there are some other sources of money that we haven't mentioned specifically. They were on the slide there. Philanthropic money, philanthropy. For example, the Gates Foundation. Jack Ma of Alibaba has just declared a $3.5 billion philanthropy fund for Chinese struggling people who can't get money anywhere else. And then, of course, there's the area of grants. There's a whole load for social enterprises in particular. And social enterprises are becoming more and more popular for young people to start them. We've got a whole business centre in Cambridge that only does social enterprise. There are grants for which you don't have to give away any shares. You get the money and you spend it and you do the job. But let's just go back to that one principle, it might even be in your family. Most people that are going to put money into you, whether it's bank, venture capital, grants, whether it's philanthropy, bank manager, the same principle will apply. They will want you to convince them that it's a good cause, or it's going to make money, and that you will use it wisely, and the presentation of what you are and what you intend to do has got to be good, whatever the source of money you're seeking, or whatever the source of support you're seeking. And even the same goes when you're selling your product. So this presentation thing is very, very important.
Okay, so thanks for that, Alan. So we've talked, and Alan's